afternoon, green evening to all our brothers and sisters across the globe. People, those are joining us from Canada, United States, Latin America. A lot of people are friends from Peru, Costa Rica, Venezuela, Chile, and a couple of other places in South America. And of course, East Coast and the West Coast of both the countries. When we talk about United States and Canada, a very warm, and a very green morning to all of you, people, those joining from there. And we move on from there, ladies and gentlemen. People have enjoyed their lunch thoroughly in the European Union and also in UK. And let's move on from there. It's after dinner, post dinner. Our president is in Southeast Asia. So right, people, those are joining us from Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei. And let's move to Central Asia. Let's move to Middle East, and of course, Mauritius, Seychelles, and African continent. All the places across the globe. And coming to our beautiful Bharat and South Asia. We extend a very hearty welcome to all of you. This evening, we are moving ahead. During this Corona, our chamber has done 1,291 webinars till 7 p.m. this evening, and this is 1,292nd webinar. 11,000 dignitaries have come so far during this pandemic, and more than 3.5 lakh youth from the world over, because 1.65 billion children were away from schools, colleges, universities, institutions. So it was a great challenge, like doctors, nurses, paramedical, they have taken great job, great warriors. Our teachers, our educators, our counselors, and our technocrats, they have also done a great job. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a very hearty welcome, very warm welcome to Shri Sampat Kumar ji, Indian Administrative Services, the Principal Secretary, Health and Family Welfare, Social Welfare and Community and Rural Development, Government of Meghalaya, which is in the beautiful northeast part of India. This is with the efforts of Mr. Tyron D. Brass, the CEO Consilium for the Northeast India, and he would be soon taking care of as the advisor to our chamber from the Northeast part of India, who is working very hard, bringing everybody in the fold the best possible way. Our chamber extends a very hearty welcome to all our brothers and sisters across the globe, Indian diaspora and other dignitaries, those are joining. Hearty welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for joining and being a part. During pandemic, we focused on teachers and youth empowerment. Education and skills are incomplete till we have a right outcome for them. It may be micro, small, medium enterprise, entrepreneurship, employment. This is a wonderful strategy which our chamber has developed. We have done a couple of programs, almost 18 programs with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, out of which 6 programs have been delivered in different parts of Northeast part of India. And right from 2014 onwards, when we have moved in over there, if you see in the Nehu campus also, the ASEAN Center, which was set up with the help of Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, we were the pivot and we were the main force and the synergy and the energy behind. So strategy for services export and youth is at the center of fulcrum. We set up and we brought India's first finishing school in 1994 for service industry. And can you imagine 52,000 children have gone without paying single rupee in a digital way, in a global confluence, and they have done wonderful under various schemes of central government, and they are in the different part of the world as well as in India. During pandemic, because digital technology, flip learning, blended learning, outside classroom learning, and hybrid learning took. So e-Gurukul for service industry is the new coining and the new name for the finishing school. And presently, we have taken 2 verticals, tourism and entertainment industry. Children, those are between the age bracket of 14 to 28. You can register. It's a complimentary. You can come on ICSI.India, the web portal, and you can join for e-Gurukul. And why the education should not have music, dance, games, happiness, humor, fun, creativity, storytelling, stimulation, passion, technology, and it should be relevant to our day-to-day life. Tomorrow morning, we will take you to California, where you would be joining Professor Satendra Dhiman at 9:30, 7 Habits of Highly Fulfilled People. And that is going to be the third program of his as far as his book is concerned. And all of us, we are trying to understand the post-pandemic world. Tomorrow evening at 5 p.m., we will be with Honorable Reverend, Dilip Mukherjee. I hold him in a great, great respect. It's a treat to ears, soul, heart, mind, vision, and cerebrum. When we listen to him, he is totally submerged into empowering education ecosystem globally. Tomorrow, we will also take you at 8 p.m. to Canada, where we will be talking about teachers' experience during and post-pandemic. This would be a live program from Canada because every Sunday evening, non-resident Indians come and we are talking about making education relevant. Sunday is a diabetic day, International Diabetic Day, but Sunday, as we have got Canada's program, so we have switched over to Monday. Dr. Ravel Jindal will be coming, diabetic foot and its prevention, how India soon is becoming the diabetic capital of the world. And if we do not take care of our people, the obesity and a couple of other problems, there are going to have a multi layers of difficulties, and we would be spending more time on medical than on the education. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new world, new order. B2B is no more business to business. It's back to basics of life, basic food, basic health, basic wellness, basic happiness, basic humor, basic education, basic digital, and sustainable development. Whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. Let's come together. Let's work together. And let's join me in extending a very warm welcome to Sri Sampat Kumar ji and Mr. Tyron D. Bras, all the way from the beautiful soil of Meghalaya. We extend a very warm welcome, and I request Mr. Tyron to take on the journey here onward further of the deliberations and this evening's ecosystem, where education, youth, skills, and whatsoever you wish to take on, whether the skills are there or the rural development is there, and the different areas we can talk about related to health and wellness as well. With these words, extending a very warm welcome to both the dignitaries, and over to Mr. Tyron.
Thank you, Doctor, for that wonderful introduction over here. I'd like to welcome Mr. Sampat Kumar, Principal Secretary, Health and Family Welfare, Social Welfare, Women and Child Development, and Rural Development. A man who has shown leadership for the last 24 years, 17 years as an IAS officer, and he's also an engineer with electronics and communication. He's completed his master's from Harvard University in public administration, and a man who's actually transforming the state wherever, in whatever position he may have held. Right now, he is the Development Commissioner of Meghalaya, and he has his hands in many, many areas. One of the first things that he did was he introduced State Capability Enhancement Project, and the author of Social Audit, so vital in a democracy. Good evening, sir. Mr. Sampat Kumar.
Good evening, Mr. Tyron. Thank you. Thank you for your generous words, of introducing me. Thank you very much. Yeah, please go
on. I met you at the time in 05, where the mindset was confrontation, and you changed that mindset over here to cooperation. I would like to congratulate you for what you did then, and your good work has continued. And your most challenging job came in from last year, where with the pandemic, you went about creating the new health policy of Meghalaya. Could you elaborate on that, sir?
Thank you. Yeah. Health, is a state subject. So we actually took the pandemic, the crisis, as an opportunity to really look deep into the various issues related to the healthcare. How actually we can really improve various health indicators, which are really not very good. In fact, our maternal mortality and infant mortality rate are higher than the national average, and our life expectancy is also lower than the national average. So we felt that we should really understand where actually we need to really strengthen. So we have we have used that entire pandemic period to really understand the problems related to the healthcare, and we started drafting a policy which actually provides an intent of the state, how actually we would like to improve the healthcare systems. So that was in fact we have used an approach. We call it like a problem driven iterative adaptation approach, where where we look at the problem, why there is higher maternal mortality. So when we look at that, when we started actually looking at different dimensions, it's like is it a lack of the proper clinical services, or is it anything else? So when we have seen this entire thing in totality, we could actually understand that healthcare is something that not only that we need to improve the health systems, but also we need to improve the socio-economic determinants of the healthcare. So what does it mean is that you need to really strengthen the gender equality. We need to really work on improve reducing the poverty. So all and also access, of course, how actually we are able to provide that healthcare accessible to the people. So one is that working on the supply side. Supply side means like how the public health systems, like which are actually provided by the state, how actually the public health systems are providing different services to the people, and at the same time how actually we are also enabling the private sector to provide those health services in an affordable manner to the people. That is the supply side dimension. The second one is that like how actually from the demand side, how the citizens and how the people are able to access these services with ease. There should not be one is that like we have different challenges. One challenge is a geographical challenge. Meghalaya is a state which has close to 6,400 villages are there. That was like though it's a smaller state, but because of its hilly terrain and the villages are remotely located, and it's very difficult to access. So one of the challenges is that like how actually we can ensure healthcare as someone actually residing in the remotest parts of the state. So that's one of the challenges. In fact, some places where people have to trek for hours to reach to a health sub center. So that's again a challenge. In fact, these are the challenges that what we have. So one is that how to address that primary healthcare, how actually we can take the primary healthcare closer to the people. So that's one part. And the second is that like how actually people are able to utilize these services. Often what we have observed is that like there is a again, health seeking behavior is something that we need to really promote in the state, because that's something that we really have to work on it. Because when we look at different indicators, they are also they're not only due to lack of certain services at a certain level, but more so is that lack of that health seeking behavior. So if you look at the different mortality reasons in the state, for example, we have the highest cancer rates in the state. So, and when we go back, why the cancer rates are higher, we have the tobacco consumption, how actually we can reduce the tobacco consumption, how actually we can change that behavior, of how we can actually ensure that one. So we started actually working with the schools. So and then what we did was that, like, we made sure that nobody sells tobacco near the schools and the colleges. That's one initiative. I think we hope that, like, in the days to come, the consumption of tobacco among the children would reduce significantly. So some of these things, we need to work on the demand side. We also need to see the source of the problem and work on it. Similarly, we have seen, like, most of the mothers, who have died, are not actually, are coming from very interior places, hard to reach areas. So how actually we can provide those health services in the hard to reach areas? So what we have done is that we have mobilized our healthcare staff to go to the villages for helping the mothers, who are not able to come for the institutional delivery, to help them with a safe delivery at home. So it's happening in many places. Our healthcare workers, whom we call them auxiliary nurse midwives, ANMs, they are trekking, hours, like 4 to 5 hours, going to the remote places and helping the mothers, in terms of, providing the safe delivery. So all these things we have articulated in the state health policy. So state health policy is one of the things, is that, like, on one hand, how much actually, budgetary support that we are able to provide for the healthcare sector. In fact, Meghalaya is one of the top states in terms of healthcare expenditure now. Almost like a
That's
7 to 8,
wonderful.
7 to 8% of the health budget, is budget, how the budget goes for the health sector. So that's one part. And besides that one, what are the as I said, like, the different dimensions, not only as I said, like, health is again related to the poverty, health is related to gender equality. So it's a kind of all the dimensions are taken care of. So we discussed at length how actually we need to improve the public health, how we need to improve the primary health care. So while doing it, in fact, we have articulated a 3-dimensional healthcare model through this health policy. One is that, often the states, they focus more on curative healthcare. When you are sick, then only you go to the hospital. So it's so then, in fact, by the time, the precious time has already been lost. So in this health policy, what we have articulated is that we are going to focus now not only on curative healthcare, but more importantly, the preventive and primary healthcare, so that, we will not actually, we will have more chance to, to help people not to actually, have the comorbidities, not to have that, mortality at the early stage, because, so that's one part that we have been working on. And the third dimension is enabling dimension, how actually we are enabling, how actually people are able to access the services, how actually we are able to, provide, very strategically. For example, if you focus on early childhood period, at a later point of time, your healthcare costs would be less and your health would be much better. So some of these actually areas we are bringing in. Similarly, enabling a dimension, we also brought the social audit, where, we have a mechanism where people actually can ask how they are getting their services from the government. There is a proper mechanism, so people are empowered to participate in the entire governance. So that way, the health policy, in fact, has been brought out, especially during this pandemic period. So we realized that, like, we felt it, it's so important. It's so important because if there is if there's a health, there is an economy. So there are livelihoods. So it's so important and fundamental. So the state actually, the government has been working very seriously. In fact, we also, working with the multilateral organizations like World Bank, to strengthen the entire health infrastructure. That's again, because again, as I said, we have large number of villages. So we have a lot of health centers are there. They need to be properly maintained. So we're also building that entire the results based financing to improve the entire infrastructure too. Yeah, I think
And
this is about the
yeah,
health.
that's fantastic. And since you just mentioned about social audit, I happened to be present when there was a social audit that happened in East Garo Hills. And I saw the kind of accountability that the villagers were demanding from the government. And if that continues at that grassroots level, democracy is going to stay really firm in this country everywhere. I hope, because what I noticed with the tribal people in East Garo Hills, where they were not afraid to just demand what they were supposed to get. And all credit to you, because you introduced that system over there. Excellent, excellent, Mr. Sampath Kumar. Another thing that I would like to talk about is the transformation of Manrega here in Meghalaya, which started maybe 10, 12 years ago. And from mere 300 crores, it's now gone to 1,600 crores. I mean, I would like to know a little more about this transformation.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there are two questions that you have asked. Let me actually start talking about the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. NREGA is called the National Employment Guarantee Act. I think this is a phenomenal program, phenomenal, policy intervention by any country. I think that's something that, we really, seeing the impact of this program. So under, National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, it's where the citizens are given an opportunity to ask for 100 days of employment, So this is a kind of a rights-based entitlement program. And what we have done was, because this is again a Meghalaya being a largely rural areas, and people really depends on the natural resources, and also they have a lot of problems in terms of connectivity and so many issues, like and even managing the natural resources. So we have again used this program to really leverage the program to bring the holistic development in the rural areas. So what we have done was, we have actually built the capacity of the community institutions, because that's a very important thing. What the Meghalaya has done differently maybe from maybe others is that we have a dedicated, a community-based organization is there in the state to implement National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So that's called village employment councils. So village employment councils are the community-based organizations where the people are they come together. It's like a gram sabha. That means a kind of a it's a sometimes it's a where every male and female head of every household is a member of that particular council, and they have an elected executive committee, and it is headed generally by the traditional headman. That's why it's a beautiful combination of the traditional institutions and modern principles of democracy, because there is an election process for other members, and also there's a representation of the women members too. So this is through this village employment councils, we started implementing the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So when there is a community participation, then then you see a different kind of a scenario. So what we did was, we focused a lot on strengthening this village employment councils. We have actually gone block to block to train these village employment councils to build their capabilities, how actually they can have their own vision for their own village, how actually they can have that purposeful vision, how actually they can really use these resources to bring that holistic development. Because this National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, it's a huge mammoth program. In fact, where Government of India provides almost like a 90% of the the resources to all the states, where essentially all the wages, up 90% of the wages. So where this particular program, where provides to work on rural connectivity issues, to work on improving the natural resources, to work on the securing the water, water for the village. So it actually impacts in many ways, in fact. So that way, when the village employment councils were given trainings, how actually they can prepare the plans, how actually they can use the money effectively by leveraging their own resources, and then they started actually having the plans, many villages, in fact, have been connected with the state roads through this program. Today, like as I said, like many roads, like many, if you go to any village in Meghalaya, you would see like a urban kind of an infrastructure, beautiful footpaths, beautiful roads, all are through actually come through this National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Similarly, they also actually, this is initially this, most of the village employment councils focused on rural connectivity because that was a major issue that time. Once they sorted out the rural connectivity issue, that means like roads and bridges and and the footpaths and this kind of a work, now we started focusing on how actually we can improve the water security, how actually we can improve the the afforestation. So we have a lot of focus is on natural resource management related works. Now actually because we also, as part of this entire process, the state government also has brought out the state water policy. This is again a very important policy that was brought in 2019, essentially to provide the water security for not only for the present generation but also for the future generation. How actually these entire village employment councils started working on the water conservation related works. So they in fact thousands of check dams and different related works actually have been taken up under this program. So in the process, as I said, like the success lies essentially building that local leadership. So what we believe, in fact, as you mentioned, as part of the state capability, what the Meghalaya is doing is that building local leadership. If you build local leadership and cutting edge level leadership, both within the community and also within the government functionaries. In fact, we have the block level functionaries who really work so well. So this entire, we invested a lot. In fact, we brought IRMA, IRMA Anand, you are aware, Institute of Rural Management Anand. We brought the director of IRMA here. We've organized trainings to all our cutting edge level officers like BDOs and different extension officers at the block level, essentially to build their that to bring that intrinsic motivation and the purpose to do well and to really serve people with a lot of commitment. So all that led to that building that local leadership, adaptive leadership, and also working on we also started using the data very effectively. When we look at when we started working with the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, I would say when we wanted to really rejuvenate that entire program, what we felt was first we looked at like how many village employment councils were active, how many were not very active. We have the data. Then once we have the data, those who have not been active, then we focused on them, how actually we can make them active. So the block development officers took initiative, made many dormant village employment councils to start functioning, clearing small issues within the village, resolving them, and providing a kind of a standard operating protocol, how actually they can get the work sanctioned in a very smooth manner, how actually they can get multiple works at a time, so that different groups can take up the works simultaneously, so that our efficiency has gone up. This is a very important case study. This National Rural Employment Guarantee Act program, what happened in Meghalaya, is a very interesting case study. Like what you would see Arvind Eye Care model, which is a very important case study, like where the same resources, but how innovatively that we started working on different elements that actually helped us to activate all the village employment councils, and then that has resulted in significant uptake of this program. So from 300 crores to 1600 crores. So that is this entire money is going into the pockets of the rural areas, and for the wages directly goes to the people, and even the works. Besides that, you can see a durable assets coming up in the villages. So this is one. As part of this, now I'll come to the second question of social audit. As part of this National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, there is a social audit. Social audit actually was introduced through this particular act, saying that a social audit is a kind of a mandatory for the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So when we started working on this social audit, within the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So we found it was very useful, because when you go to a remotest district, in fact, now we don't have militancy in the state, but when we had militancy in some of the districts of the state, even in those districts, you would not find the main state roads not very, not very good. But you will see, if you see you go to the villages, just like, you see a beautiful roads, and works have been done very well, because one of the things is that there is a social audit process. You can see even in the remotest places, you can go, every year there is a social audit. People would come and see how their money is spent, how what is the quality of those programs. Everything is audited by the people, facilitated by an independent social audit unit. So this independent mechanism helped us to ensure that, like, the MGNRE, that MGNRE is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, was implemented well. So taking clue from that one, the state government has brought and we thought, like, how actually this same process can be used for various other development programs and services provided by the state. So accordingly, this Meghalaya Community Participation and Public Services Social Audit Act has come up. And under that, currently 21 programs and services have been included. So all the services and programs are being actually audited by the people, so that in fact, it's not like a post or like postmortem kind of an audit, like when the work happened, then only the audit happens. It also, this social audit is a continuous process. You can actually see when the work is being implemented, when the services are being delivered. So if there is any problem in the delivery process, you can actually make a course correction. So it's like that way, social audit helps in in bringing a lot of effectiveness and efficiency in terms of delivery of different developmental programs. At the same time, it also brings a lot of transparency, and more importantly, the participation, community participation. The community participation is fundamental for democracy, and community participation is fundamental for ensuring that participatory governance, because there is someone, actually everyone, even a poorest person in the village, can see that, okay, yeah, I think my voice is actually heard in the system. So they actually get a lot more confidence on the state and the government. So social audit, that way, it's a very important process. And yes, Meghalaya is currently, it's the only state which has brought a law for social audit and community participation. Thank
That's
you.
wonderful. And I have been in Garo Hills for 35 years, and I have seen a transformation taking place over here in terms of development, in terms of education, health, and democracy actually getting its full deep roots over here. I think a lot of credit should be given to the governments that have done that job. Talking about the pandemic, sir, it has affected everybody, and everyone is making a little less money. Tomorrow, we are going to celebrate Poverty Eradication Day by the UN. Does the government of Meghalaya have any such schemes besides Manrega where urban poor can be, bailed out?
Yeah.
The urban poor.
So it's a good question. In fact, there is along with the National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, what we also have another very important program that's called National Rural Livelihoods Mission, NRLM. So NRLM is essentially a poverty reduction program. So how they do is that, in fact, it's again a very, very thorough program. In fact, this was built on the principles of, again, strengthening the institutions of the poor, how actually by organizing the poor into the self-help groups, essentially, and encouraging them for savings, and also, enabling them some access to capital from the banks, and also through that program, also they get some community investment fund. Idea is that they'll have access to hassle-free credit. Once you have access to hassle-free credit, that means one don't require any mortgaging of anything. They can actually get money without, just only the self-help group itself provides that collateral. That's called social collateral. So through this is a very most effective and proven model for poverty reduction. So through that, now what the state has done is that we have almost like 70% of the rural households today are organized into women self-help groups in the state. 70% of the rural households. So this means what is happening, 70% of the rural houses, essentially the poor, are less poor, you can say. Poor are, poorest of the poor, are, we categorize them also, poorest of the poor, are less poor or non-poor. 70%. So these, through this, every house, 70% of the households have access to credit now. So credit, what is that? It's collateral free credit. So they can actually access money to invest in the livelihoods, and they can actually increase their incomes. So that the idea is that if every family, if they can actually take 1-2 loans every year and invest in the livelihoods, they can actually multiply their income. So that's a way. In fact, thousands of women, actually, we have seen actually thousands of families are benefited through this particular National Rural Livelihoods Mission. And of course, our state government also has given a lot of emphasis in providing, in addition to the support that is provided through this National Rural Livelihoods Mission, we are also actively linking them with the banks, so that we are making them to building that credit history for them, so that they can actually take up even bigger ventures in the future. So on the same lines, we also have a National Urban Livelihoods Mission, NULM. So that's also there. Under that also, these self-help groups are being promoted. Of the essentially self-help groups means the poor households are organized into the self-help groups, 10 to 20 members, 10 to 20 households. From every household, so they identify one woman member. So and then they are part of this self-help group, and they meet on a weekly basis. They discuss, they think about how actually they can overcome poverty. They make the plans, and they access the money that is made available through these programs, and they invest in those particular activities and see the progress. So it's a very very structured concept is there, and that's where of course rural areas, it's because I just said 80% of our state has rural spread. So a lot of focus is there. Urban areas also, there is a focus, and definitely I think for this question, I hope it's tomorrow you said it's a poverty reduction day. I think it's a very important day, and in fact we are doing well. Our Meghalaya state, compared to other indicators, we are doing well in this poverty indicator because of this two programs. One is this National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, and also another is National Rural Livelihoods Mission. So our in fact if you look at the sustainable development goals, in fact we are in fact in a good shape. Thank you.
That's wonderful. In fact, sir, Meghalaya used to be Shillong-centric. I think right now you have managed to clear the air, and it's not Shillong-centric, but Meghalaya complete. And that's really heartening to know that we are looking beyond Shillong. There's one thing I would like to know, especially rural Meghalaya, and sometimes there are accidents. How best can we improve the golden hour and save lives?
Yeah. So we have, again, we have a EMRI, this EMRI, emergency response, system. That's like 108, like in the US, you have 911. Like that in India, it's not like a 911, but like 911 kind of a concept for providing emergency health support. That is, we have this 108. So we have a proper 108 vehicles and 108 call center is there. So yes, in fact, what we have been doing is that we are actually, during the COVID period, we saw, of course, this 108 has been used for COVID related, transportation too. But these 108 vehicles are positioned, strategically in various locations, including these, national highways and all. whenever there is an accident, within 25 minutes, maximum, that is the kind of a timeline that that is provided. So they should able to reach the location, and they also provide some basic life support systems are there, so they will take them to the nearest hospital. So we are also actually coming up with some trauma center, to link these things, trauma centers in various places. So that's again a work in progress. But yes, we have a mechanism. Like this is something that India has done. If you look at it's a pretty, almost like every state has adopted. Initially it started in Andhra Pradesh, and later on it has gone to different other states. So that's one thing. But definitely we are actually, in fact, during this COVID period, we also have brought a lot of ambulances now, because on one hand 108 it takes care of this emergency services, but we also require a lot of other ambulances, to take care of maternal health issues and different other issues. So state actually has procured quite a number of ambulances during this period. Yeah.
Right, sir. You know, I'll ask one last question. Since you are the development commissioner of the state, and it's a brand new kind of designation that's for you. Looking at Meghalaya, looking at where its location, natural resources, its educated population, and skills development, how do you see Meghalaya in another, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
So Meghalaya, I see Meghalaya is like an emerging state, and it has tremendous potential. I think I would say this state has that kind of a potential. It would last, many more years than any other state, in the sense, because of two things. One is that it has a beautiful culture, the community institutions, especially the strength of Meghalaya is the communities, the indigenous communities, the way they work together. In fact, with a tremendous sense of participation, tremendous sense of purpose, and the way they help each other. So I think you would those values of the communities, you take them in a different standard. So if you look at, I'll give one example of how actually the communities work. We just spoke about this National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So when the government actually sanctions a project under this particular, in one village, I visited in Khasi Hills, where that village got sanctioned for constructing one check dam. So the government rate is actually, based on a schedule of rates. Generally, the technical departments, they come up with some kind of estimates. Whereas in that village, they used the same money to construct two check dams. They said, we made saving. So we thought, in fact, if we could get one more check dam in the upstream, so actually we'll save more water. So that is the kind of a community ownership and participation that is having. So if you have that kind of a participation, we have 6,400 villages are there in the state. So if every village works in that kind of, that kind of a spirit, we can see a beautiful future. And the second is that it has a beautiful natural capital. One is that, the cultural capital, as I said, like, the very culture is a matrilineal society, most of our egalitarian culture, very respectful in terms of discourses, the people have. So that's a very, a very high level of, the democracy that you would see. In addition to that, like the second thing is natural capital. We have a, large forests, we have, a lot of resources. So how actually we are going to leverage this natural resources for ensuring sustainable development. So now we are working on that line, how actually we can really improve that natural resource management, how actually we can ensure sustainable development, how actually we can ensure that climate change adaptation, because climate change is one of the important things in the world. So, and Meghalaya being a fragile state, it wanted to actually, Meghalaya as a state, we wanted to become an environmental state, how we can actually take this so we coming up with mobilizing people, on these lines. So it's a massive work that is there, we have initiated. So that's something I would see in the next 5 to 10 years. Yes, because of we have a lot of young population, and there's again, if we invest on education, proper skilling, so they will become a great asset to the state. And we also actually, what we are doing now, it's a very interesting thing, a very strategic thing. What we are doing is that now we are going to focus on the early childhood development period, 0 to 8 years, right from the child, when in the conception, from the conception to 8 years. A lot of focus now we are going to give in this particular period. If you give that focus, our school readiness will improve, our learning outcomes will improve, our health outcomes will improve. In fact, so we are seeing that down the lane, in when these children become the adults, they will be much more active, much more, effective in terms of, their livelihoods, in terms of, their cognitive skills, how actually they can really do well in the future. So Meghalaya will become a cognitive capital, in future. That's the kind of a vision that what we have. And also, as I said, it will provide leadership, not only for the Northeast, but we see that like it can provide a leadership in terms of, the sustainable development, in terms of, the climate change and various other issues, across the globe.
Thank you, sir. I know you're doing a lot in terms of improving health infrastructure and setting up departments. But one thing that's been noticed is there are not enough technicians for these departments. And in the short run, how best can the government address this issue vis-a-vis manpower in these departments?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, we one is that like we really have to focus a lot on this. We faced that when during the COVID period. We didn't have many lab technicians. So what we did, we had to hire people and train them, and that's again a lot of focus is there. So one is that we are trying to promote a lot of health related education, especially public health related education. So that's another focus. We are strengthening the Indian Institute of Public Health in Shillong, so that's one area. And in addition to that, we are also actually looking at different ways, how actually this can be improved. So definitely that's one area. And we're also thinking whether there is any other institutes are coming up, like who can actually set up more nursing schools and more these institutes to build that cadre. So yes, this is an issue. In fact, we also have an issue of specialists. We don't have enough medical specialists like gynecologists, pediatricians, anesthesiologists, radiologists. So that's where what we did was like we are bringing up a concept like a postgraduate diploma courses within the state, so that we are going to start from this year. But that's it's something that the state really need to focus upon. Yeah, thank you.
Could you shed some extra light on the medical colleges that are supposed to come up in the state?
Yeah, there are definitely one college is in the pipeline, that is Tura Medical College, which is actually the construction is going on. So hopefully in our next 1 to 2 years, this construction should be over, and we should be able to see that operational. So Shillong Medical College, there is some proposal under public-private partnership that is also under examination. So that's also will take some time to be realized or translated into a reality. Yeah.
Well, sir, after listening to you this evening, you brought a lot of clarity to all of us, and I really appreciate the way you've gone about expressing everything what's happening in the state. And if we stick to our plan, I'm sure, as you rightly said, Meghalaya is going to do extremely well. Thank you, sir. I'll now hand you over to Dr. Gulshan Sharma. Doctor?
Thank you. In fact, it's such a beautiful insight which he has given, and something very amazing and very interesting. From Canada, Mr. Vijay Kotamarthi ji has joined. Vijay Sastri Kotamarthi from Canada, from Ontario. And he's writing that the best part is the social audit, because he says that I'm a chartered accountant heading over here. I'm a CPA practicing in Canada and FCA from India, worked in Africa earlier. And I'm very happy to note the concept of social audit, which is being done. That is something very amazing, very interesting. Now, two things which you have brought were beautiful cultural capital. And the second part you told the natural capital. And then you have touched Meghalaya will become the cognitive capital in future. I would request you to emphasize on that, because my passion is children, my passion is teachers, and good children, good youth, good student, good skill, good education ecosystem can be only when the teachers are empowered, when the teachers are having the right packaging and they understand what exactly is to be delivered. So a little bit more on to that cognitive. How do you anticipate, how do you see the future part of that?
I'll just say, so we have, as I said, we have a lot of young population. We have a lot of young population, and this young population definitely, that would lead to further young population. That's something that we are anticipating. So strategically, what the state is trying to do is that we have a beautiful research. In fact, this was a world-class research is happening. In fact, this is a under the science of early childhood. The science of early childhood is a new subject, and it is connected with the brain science and also behavioral science aspects. So as based on the science of early childhood, we are trying to actually bring out a policy with those innovations. So the idea is that I'll just tell you, there is one of the for the audience, there is a Periscope project which was done in US way back some time ago, almost like 40 years ago. Periscope project. What under the Periscope project, what they have done was they've identified two groups of children, similar background, poor children, and then in one group is a treatment group, another is a control group. Treatment group is the group where the interventions were given. So what are the interventions? Every week, for 2 hours, the children were actually taught by a graduate teacher, and during the age between 4 to 5 years. And then one day in a week, the teacher also meets the parents, the mothers of the children, and provides a counseling support, how to take care of the children, how to really stimulate the children, so these are the things. So one is that positive parenting, I would call it, the second one. The first one is like early learning. Once this was done for 2 years, and then they started observing these two groups for the next 40 years. So when every year, how these children are doing, when they see the difference between these two groups, the children who got that early childhood care, they're done tremendously well. Like if you look at their IQ levels are far, far higher than the control group. And and their especially their ability to to handle things, this emotional, socio-emotional things is far, far better. So they're less likely to get into trouble also, less likely to go to incarceration or anything. And their health indicators are better, and they earn more dollars than the other group when they have become adults. So that's the meaning of work, and this is something that everyone says. In fact, this is because the entire brain growth, the architecture, the growth happens during the first 5 years. So if you invest well in this first 5 year, both like what we are trying to do is that not first 5 years healthcare, no child should die, like that's one. Number two, nutrition. The children's nutrition is a very, very important thing. How actually we are able to bring that one. And with simple practices, like, I would say a practice like, skin to skin care, we call it kangaroo mother care. We can actually, one, you can provide more nutrition because the child is always on the chest of mother. So actually child will get more nutrition, exclusive breastfeeding. So some of these practices in the initial first 3-year period, and 3 to 8-year period, a lot more focus on, like, servant written functions, how actually we encourage children to really be creative, and especially the parent are being always with the children. So a lot of focus on that we are going to focus upon. So that's the kind of a design that what we have. And I said we are going to become a cognitive power in the years to come.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Par excellence, par excellence. Wonderful analogy, chronology, ecosystem, everything what you have given. It's so convincing. And thereby, Mr. Tyron, I always say the teachers, those are handling the children up to 8 years of age, should be highest paid more than professors. That is the recommendation our chamber has been making. We told Kasturi Ranganji also, we told everybody, the teachers, those are handling children right. Of course, we had gone 2 years more, up to 10 years of age. We have taken 2 years more. And secondly, the last point, before we close this session, rural part, when we are talking about India, still live in villages, rural economy, rural living, rural grown up. The ecosystem is still rural when we take into. Have we ever thought that somewhere the tourism department of Meghalaya and the rural department should be combined together? People are not interested to come and stay in these 7-star hotels in the dirty metros. I'm sorry to use that word because I'm coming from the tourism background. I eat tourism, I sleep tourism, I get up tourism, I think tourism, I walk tourism, I talk tourism, and I research tourism. Why can't we focus on rural tourism, green tourism, nature tourism, ecotourism, and the entire system can be built? Why are we teaching which is not required and which is not relevant to my day-to-day life? If India lives in villages, why can't we have a bachelor's more into the rural related economies, development, whatsoever has to be done? Because after all, what is the purpose of education? During pandemic, we lost one of our very dear friends, Sir Ken Robinson, and he always used to say, what is the purpose of education? And Dr. Sugata Mitra, the hole in the wall, no teacher around, only 2 computers fitted in one wall, and 1 month, children are left at their own. Nobody is coming to supervise. Only one camera being fitted on the top, and that camera is capturing all the images. After 1 month, children had picked up so many skills and so much of it. The algorithms, what we keep talking about with the education. So it's not to tell that, Mr. Tyron, we should not have schools and colleges. The only thing is we got to bring some changes in that. What is your take on that, Mr. Sampat Kumarji?
No, I think great. I really, in fact, relate with what you said. I think I echo some of the feelings also what you expressed about rural areas, rural tourism. In fact, because people really wanted to spend a beautiful, because we have the slow food, when you go to the rural places, you'll get organic food, slow food, clean. So and you learn from the culture. So this is something that the state also is focusing upon on tourism a lot. In fact, state government has a lot of focus. In fact, my colleague, Dr. Vijay Kumar, is really spearheading this particular tourism sector. In fact, I'll definitely connect you, in fact, Major, for the kind of the passion that what you have, International Chamber for Service Industry, how actually you can also help the state there, in terms of some of these ideas. But we do have, and we are bringing in a big way rural tourism. There is one external aided project also, we are implementing. So through that, you will see many more, rural tourist spots very soon. In fact, a lot of investment is happening there. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Such a pleasure to have you with us today. It was, in fact, such a depth and such a indeed learning for all of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, green morning and green afternoon and green evening to all of you, wherever you are world over. We are talking about rural, we are talking about health, we are talking about holistic, and with our best wishes, early childhood development focus of the government of Meghalaya. And I think Sampat Kumar ji is bent upon to make Meghalaya as the cognitive capital in future for the globe. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Tyron, for bringing Mr. Sampat Kumar ji. Great evening to both of you. Thank you very much for joining, and look forward